shaken comes from being shaken. Hear what I said? I see people shaking their heads like this all over the room, and they're people, I know their situation, and I know they've been through. I saw a man shake his head who's been so sick he couldn't work. I saw a lady shake her head that was forsaken by her husband. She's had to rear children by herself. And I saw folks like that shaking their heads all over the house. You see, there's a certain faith that comes when you're shaken that cannot be shaken. A faith that cannot be shaken comes from being shaken. There's a progression. I want you to follow me through the progression. Number one, you're shaken. Number two, you face a choice. Number three, you can go one of two ways. Number four, you can trust your judgment or you can trust his judgment. Now that's a choice you've got to make. I mean, when you come to where you, and by the way, you've been shaken this year. A lot of people in this room this morning have been shaken this year. I mean, I know of a child here has an incurable disease, and a year ago the mom and dad didn't know about it, and they've been shaken this year. And I've pastored hundreds and hundreds of people. In fact, maybe several thousand of you have been shaken this year. And so the first thing you got to face is this. You got to face a choice. You can go one or two ways. You can trust your judgment or you can trust his judgment. Now that's exactly what my mother faced when Lorene died. She had to come to the place to where I can't see it. I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't think you've been right. But dear God, I've got to do one or two things. I've got to trust my judgment or I've got to trust your judgment, one or the other. So first thing, the progression, you're shaken. Number two, you face a choice. Number three, you can go one or two ways. Number four, you trust your judgment or his. Number five, you wrestle with it. And enter folks this morning, you're wrestling right now. I mean, the truth is, your faith, you're shaken right now. Your life is shaken. You're having a pretty tough time looking up and saying, God, I trust you. You're having a pretty tough time believing God's fair and honest and just. And that's a normal thing. Listen, nobody ever had unshakable faith till first he was shaken and had some times of doubts. And this morning, you are there, and you're wrestling with it. And by the way, number six, and it happens to all of us, number six, you consider ditching it all. I've not in all this year given one single moment of considering quitting. Never. Never has been an alternative. Never has. Not one time. All this year. Have I given any consideration of quitting? I'm pressing on the upward way. New heights I'm gaining every day. Still praying as I onward bound. Lord, plant my feet on higher ground. Lord, lift me up and let me stand by faith on heaven's tableland, a higher plane than I have found. Lord, plant my feet on higher ground. Never one time. But back yonder years ago, when I pastored a little church in the country, when the man that I thought was the best man in my church turned on me and did what he could to turn others on me, I went out in the woods and I said, dear God, I can't take this. I cannot take it. Now, I'll guarantee you, every Sunday morning, it was a chore for me to walk in the pulpit. And every Sunday night, I didn't want to walk in the pulpit. And I looked up to God and I said, dear God, I don't understand this. And about that time, the word came that my father had died a drunkard's death, and as far as I know, had gone to hell. And I put down the telephone that day and I said, this is it. It's not right. I'm a preacher, and I'm not a great preacher. I'm still not, but I'm sincere. And this is not right. I don't understand it. It's not fair. My daddy's, I'm trying to get people saved, and my daddy died an alcoholic's death. It's not fair. And I wrestled with that thing for weeks and weeks and weeks, but bless God, when I was shaken, I kept on going. That's what you're supposed to do. You just keep on going. You've heard me tell this story. I was talking to a man out west, and he came to me and he said, Brother Hyles, he said, I'm going to quit the ministry. I said, why? He said, my unmarried daughter is pregnant. And I said, no, you can't do it. He said, how can I walk in the pulpit next Sunday morning? How can I preach next Sunday? I said, here's how you do it. I said, the first thing you do Sunday morning is you get up. Second thing you do is you bathe. Third thing you do is you dress. Fourth thing you do is you eat. Fifth thing you do, you get in the car. Sixth thing you do, you come to church. Seventh thing you do, you sit up there behind the pulpit. The eighth thing you do, you stand up in the pulpit and you start preaching. I said, that's the way you do it. You just keep on doing it. He did. A couple of years later, I crossed his path again. That same preacher out west walked up to me and he said, he's a pastor. He said, Dr. Hyles, he said, you won't believe what I'm going to tell you. He said, my second teenage daughter is pregnant and not married. And I threw my arms around that preacher's shoulders, and I said, my brother, I don't know how you stand it. I said, how in the world can you walk in the pulpit next Sunday morning after having 2 daughters pregnant before they're married? He looked at me and he said, with a square jaw, through tears, he said, first thing I'm going to do is get up. Second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bathe. Third thing I'm going to do, I'm going to dress. Fourth thing I'm going to do is I'm going to eat. Fifth thing, I'm going to get in the car. Sixth thing, I'm going to drive to church. Seventh thing, I'm going to sit behind the pulpit. Eighth thing, I'm going to get up and preach. You see, what happened? His faith was shaken. I encouraged his heart. And from that faith that was shaken came a faith that was unshakable. And that's the way. Hey, God's being good to you. You had a shaking this year. God's been good to you. God is building in you, or giving you the opportunity to have a faith that cannot be shaken. And nobody ever has a faith that cannot be shaken unless it's born in being shaken. So God is good to us when God gives us things that shake us. So hang in there. When you come out, if you hang in there and do right, you can have a faith that cannot be shaken. Illustration. We love to talk about Job. Job said in Job 19:25, I know that my Redeemer liveth. He said in Job 13 and 15, though he slay me, yet will I trust him. But I want you to notice that was not said in the first chapter of Job. I want you to know that was not said in the second chapter of Job. I want you to know that was not said in the third chapter of Job. It was Job chapter 13 before he said, though he slay me, yet will I trust him. He didn't say that when he had lost his wealth. He was shaken. He didn't say that when he lost his children. He was shaken. He didn't say that when he lost his wife, his loyalty and encouragement. He was shaken. He didn't say that when his friends turned on him. It was after all of that, when he was shaken. Job said, I know that my Redeemer liveth. When the shindig's over, he's going to be on the throne. And he said, though he slay me, yet will I trust him. Where did Job get that unshakable faith? He got it from being shaken. So if you've been shaken this year, stand up and say, blessed be God. God's given me a chance. Listen, you got some big battles ahead. You better stand in these little battles. I mean, it may be one of these days that a sword will come to your neck and say, deny Jesus, or off comes your head. And you're going to say, Jesus who? Unless you've taken these. If you can't tithe, you won't stand it when they put the knife to your neck. If you can't come to church on Sunday night and Wednesday night, you won't take it when the knife's put to your neck. I'm saying that everybody in America, everybody in the world, in the history of mankind, who's had a faith that could not be shaken, it was born the time in their lives when they were shaken. You know, that really is what I think is the main reason for college. I don't want to upset you college teachers, but I doubt the main reason to come to college is just to learn where X and Y are located. I have some serious doubt that the main reason to come to college is to find out what year the War of 1812 was fought, or who's buried in Grant's tomb. I have some doubt that that's why you come to college. Oh, now, I don't want to hurt your teachers' feelings. We need you, and we got to do that. I have some doubt. I'll say this. I really have some doubt if the reason to come to college is learn Bible. If a man's worth his salt as a preacher, he's going to learn his Bible without going to college. You say then, Brother Hyles, what's the use? I don't know what the use is. You got to come to a place in your life where you face the wall without any food, and you lose your job maybe, and everything is going bad. And you say, how can I take it? And you're shaken, and from that being shaken, a faith comes that the devil can't shake out yonder when you're in the real battlegrounds. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. God comes today, and God shakes your life. Unemployment, disease, child is taken, husband takes off with another woman, something in your life, it seems like you're destroyed, and you say, how can I face tomorrow? And yet what you do, you say, okay, I've got a decision. I've got to struggle. Will I take my word or his? Will I trust me or him? My judgment or his judgment? And you wrestle with that thing, and that's normal. What is that wrestling? That wrestling is the building of a faith that cannot be shaken. And you go when you don't want to go. And you do what you're supposed to do when you don't want to do what you're supposed to do. And you do by rote the things you used to enjoy doing. You do right because it's right, not because you enjoy doing it. And you keep on doing it, and keep on doing it, and keep on doing it. And one day, through that shaking, there comes a stronger faith and you come out of it, and you look back toward the back and look and see it from the hindsight, and you say, sure, I understand that. And the next time the old shaking comes, you say, though he slay me, yet will I trust him. I know that my Redeemer liveth. Why? Because the faith that cannot be shaken came from having been shaken. Do you ever wonder why a group of shaken disciples could turn the world upside down for God? Now you look at these guys. I mean, I look at my assistant pastors and my staff members and get discouraged. I know how you felt, Jesus. But think about these guys. I mean, here the chairman of the board cussed and swore. You understand that? And went out and they said, you belong to that church. No, I'm Methodist. Said, you his follower? No. Would you believe Buddha? Are you with them? Who are they? That's one of the ones that turned the world upside down. That's one that was crucified upside down. Peter always did things differently. He was crucified upside down. Hey, who else? Who were these men that turned the world upside down? Who were these men that took the gospel and started the gospel that came all the way to the United States of America and blessed God to a little neighborhood, ghetto neighborhood in southwest Dallas, Texas called Lisbon? Who were these men? One of them didn't even believe that Jesus was resurrected. He didn't believe that. He doubted. Who were these men? Two of them, one of the upper places in the kingdom, sitting by Jesus on the left hand, on the right hand. Who were these men? These men were men, all of them, who forsook him and fled in his darkest hour. Well then, how did these men? I'll tell you why. Because they were shaken. They were shaken. They woke up one morning and found that the captain was gone. And one doubted and one had forsaken him and fled. But blessed God, one of these guys forsook him and fled. The chairman of the board, he was out fishing. And he didn't have any clothes on, out fishing, and his faith was shaken. And all of a sudden, a man on the shore said, have you caught anything? He said, blankety blank, blankety blank. And he said, blankety blank, dirty brick, a rack, a pocket, a bunch of slattery, haven't caught a thing. And this stranger on the shore said, won't you put your net over here? He said, what do you know about these waters? I've made my living here for years. My daddy's been in business here for years, and we know this. We know every part of this lake or sea, they call it, like we know the back of our hand. He said, put it over there. He put it over there. All of a sudden, the fish came, and they came, and they came, and they came. And this man said, oh, my soul, that's exactly what happened three years ago when I met Jesus. Hey, he said, that's my captain. And he wasn't shaken anymore. And that's why he could face the crucifixion upside down and die for his Lord. Why did he have a faith that was unshaken? I'll tell you why. Because he'd been shaken. Oh, you say, God's been good to me this year. Nothing bad's happened. Probably not so good. He's probably been better to those of you who had something bad to happen. You ask that little family who got news their little boy had drowned in Lake Michigan. You ask them this morning, compare their faith today with what it was 365 years ago.